All right, good morning again. Today we're starting the chapter 2, planning a healthy diet. So on Monday we had a chance to review the chapter 1, so everybody now understand how the nutrient works. Now we have to really look at how shall we plan our diet every day. Okay. This morning I added a new slide. Everybody has the PPT, right? I added that slide, to show us the Korean food guide, which I believe is probably a better illustration of what we have to do. All right, so this is the general one that we know. Everybody knows my plate, how our plate should look like. As you see, we have the vegetables in big quantity. We have fruit. You see here whole grains and healthy protein. I'll explain a little bit more. The second part of the class, I'll explain a little bit more about the whole grain. For this morning, we will focus on the 6 principles of diet planning. Okay? And then next week, we still have the second part where I will go into details about the grains and how we should be going about how to plan our diet. All right. So you have the healthy eating plate here. Basically, this is something that we know when we eat every day. This is how our plate should look like, right? But I put a second slide. This one. Do you guys have this slide? I only put it this morning. I think the Korean food balance wheels, it's actually a very good illustration as well. A very important element, because we are talking about calories, we're talking about energy. A very important element that we have to look at here, is the physical activity part, right? Always have to remember that when we put energy into our body, and if we want to keep a healthy weight, we want to keep it, we want to control the energy. So energy that is coming in, we want to make sure that, similar energy is going out. So we don't accumulate energy in our body, all right? So this one gives us a, very good illustration of how we shall go about it. But let's look at things more into details now. How do we plan our diet? How do we plan our diet? So here, what did I put here? We put here 6 basic diet planning principles. Everybody must know these 6 basic principles. Okay. I will explain them. I will explain them one by one. The first one is what we call adequacy. Second one, balance. Third, kilocalorie control or energy control. All right. Number 4, nutrient density. 5, moderation. And the last one, variety. All right. The last one, variety. So what does it mean? If we look at the first one, we've been talking about energy all these days, right? We've been talking about energy. Adequacy means what? It means that I have sufficient energy. All right? So here we put adequacy reflects a diet that provides sufficient energy and enough of all the nutrients to meet the needs of healthy people. So sufficient energy means that this energy, right, must meet my needs. Okay? So this is where the notion of food security comes. All right? So, come in, Alberto. what is food security? Anybody remembers what is food security? Not you too. Food security? Any idea? Food security. All right. Food security. What does it mean?
Having sufficient for enough and safe
All time. Very good. Okay. So let's make it simple. When we talk about food security, remember I talk about adequacy, meaning I have sufficient energy. And that energy, I want to make sure that I have enough of all the nutrients. Remember I said all the nutrients, everybody still remember the 6 groups of nutrients, right? So I must have all of them. So food security, here is, like this part was saying, this is having, all right, the key. We have 3 keywords here when I define food security. If I ask you the definition of food security, these 3 keywords must be there. Obsimian, ping, 0. Okay? Very important to understand that. So food security here means having, in this case, the word that we use is sufficient or enough. All right? So having enough, this is the first keyword. All right? Enough, safe, second keyword. All right? And what? Nutritious. Right? Having enough, safe, and nutritious what? Food our time. Okay? It's like I asked you, did you eat? Did you eat yesterday? Did you eat yesterday? Yes. Did you eat yesterday? Did you eat the day before? Alright? So when I asked that question before, in Korea it's like an obvious answer. People eat every day. Okay? People eat every day. But the question, my problem is not eating every day. You can eat every day and not be food secure. Sometimes it's difficult to agree with it, right? I will explain a little bit. So here, because food security has 3 components: enough, safe, and nutritious, we want to make sure that all the 3 components are there. So if I say, oh, did you eat every day? Oh yes, I ate every day. So we say, okay, I have enough. It looks like you have enough. But now the question is the food that you eat safe? Okay? This is when we talk about food safety. Okay? This is when we talk about food safety. What does it mean, food safety?
Food that you eat don't have no harm.
Yes. So food safety here, if I say, okay, this food is safe, basically means that the food, right? It means that the food that I eat, right? The food that I eat causes no harm. Key element here, no harm. Basically meaning that when I eat, right? When I eat, I don't become sick. Because if you eat, and every time that you eat, you throw up, you have these belly pain all the time, then maybe the food is not safe. Right? And also remember what we talk about when we mention the problem of obesity among the rich and the poor people. And somebody say, oh yeah, it looks like poor people probably spend a lot of time eating more junk food, even though they may have access to food, all right? But if the food is not of a quality, it will be difficult for me to say that they are food secure, because the food is making them sick. Okay? So when we talk about food security has that component, this component of having enough, which is okay, it may be obvious, safe, and then nutritious, right? So all these three components are what makes a person food secure. If one of them is not there, it will be difficult. So the first element is, in planning a diet, is adequacy. Having sufficient energy and adequate nutrient for healthy people. Alright? Talking about adequate nutrients, we will see that in a few minutes. Alright? Having all these good nutrients that we need. Okay? Everybody is good?
Yes.
Any question about adequacy? No question? Alright, let's go to the second one, balance. When I was asking the questions about it, I think Alberto mentioned this word, balance. What does it mean, balance? Can I erase this? Can I erase this definition? So, the second principle of that planning is balance. What does it mean?
Means the variety of nutrients in certain proportion, like certain ratio.
Yeah. Variety of nutrient in proportion. But here, we have to sometimes make a difference. It's difficult to dissociate them. For example, when I talk about food groups and when I talk about the nutrients. So we found the nutrients in the food, all right? And then we have the food, we have like our plate, right? What did we say? Our plate is like this, right? I'm gonna draw 2 plates, okay? So you go to the restaurant. Today I won't mention the restaurant, right? I don't want to be so. Okay. Okay. So we usually have on our plate. We usually have something like this. So we have the vegetables, we have the fruits, we have the grains here, and what do we have here? All right. So this is why I'm a little bit about what you said. I'm a little bit careful when we talk about the nutrients. On my plate, the proteins are the only nutrients we found on my plate. But everything else, just like food groups. Okay? So because these proteins, we can easily divide them because we also plan the diet for vegetarian people, right? So we can have, as you know, beans, right? Or we can have what? Meat. Yeah. All right? So then we put, that's the only nutrient that we have here. And of course, we have our favorite one here, water. Okay? So, now I have this second plate, perfectly divided in 4. Perfectly divided in 4. Okay? And I still have all the components. I have vegetables, I have fruits, I have the grains, I have the protein. Okay? And we can add a third plate sometimes into that restaurant, right? Where we have the protein here, mostly from the meat, right? We have the fruits, we have the grains, and then we have the vegetables. All right? You wanted to say something?
No.
Ah, okay. All right. So the definition that I put on your PPT here is what? is when we have enough, but not too much, or different types of food in proportion to one another. What does it mean? Well, here I'm not talking about, the nutrients like you mentioned here. So we have this plate A, we have this plate B, and we have this plate C. Which one will you choose? A, B, or C?
A.
What? Say that again?
A.
A. Another answer? Okay, why A? Okay, here, when we say that we don't want too much of one group of food, right? For example, here, like I said, we won't mention the restaurant, but even when we eat the Korean barbecue, it's the same, right? Samgyeopsal, we mostly eat the meat, almost no rice, or almost no vegetables. Sometimes you have a little bit of it. So it looks a little bit like this one, and no fruit, of course, right? And they put soju on the side, I guess. So on the plate of people who mostly eat a lot of Korean barbecue, you have a lot of meat on the plate. You have a bit of vegetables, right? And a little bit of grain, small portion of rice. This one is not balanced. Why? Because you have a big portion of one type of food. So we have too much of meat or too much of the protein here compared to the other groups. Okay? You understand? So this is what we call balance. Balance here does not mean that you must eat the same quantity of fruit, grain, protein, and vegetables. Alright? They must be in proportion to one another. Of course, when you look at the food pyramid, which is a classification of food, now we change it into my plate where there are some portions that we should actually eat more than the other ones. I think yesterday after class, I was discussing with Peter about this, saying that there are certain food that we must actually have more than the other ones. All right? For example, we have like more vegetables, okay? That we should have mostly in our diet. So this is what we call balance. Having enough, but not too much of one group of food in proportion to one another, right? And last semester in the class Food and Culture, we even mentioned that even in some religions is kind of a specified, that say, oh, if you only eat vegetables, you may actually become weak by just eating vegetables, right? But in some cases, it may be advised to eat mostly vegetables and fruit for people who maybe go through some health challenges or people who want to lose weight in some cases, so then we have to reduce animal products, okay? In that case, yes, we have to adapt our diet. Okay? Any question here?
No.
My attendance program is not functioning. You guys have internet? Okay, it should be working now. All right. So, okay, let's go to number 3. So everybody understand, number 1, adequacy, number 2, balance, number 3, kilocalorie control. This is where I was mentioning that the Korean wheel for food guide is actually very interesting because you have, on the picture, you have a physical activity here. What do we mean by kilocalorie control? Kilocalorie control means that the energy I put in my body, right, must be equal to the energy that leaves my body. Okay? So energy in equal energy out. And then I will introduce the notion of high nutrient density food on the next one. Okay? So you will see, for example, on the Korean food guide, you will see that we have the food that we have to eat, and we also have what? Somebody on the bike. Okay? Which means that it is good. It is good that after eating, we don't just sit on the couch, right? So we'll advise people, okay, you eat, and then after eating, maybe walk 10-15 minutes, all right? Having a bit of energy going out, if you want to keep that balance in terms of your weight, all right? And this is when we now, you may now understand why there are certain food that may not be interesting for us. Okay? So here, what did I put here? I'm talking about empty calorie food. Empty calorie food. Remember, sometimes I mentioned that to you guys, that on Monday we talk about the problem of obesity, all right? And when we talk about the problem of obesity, we gave reasons why people are obese. What was the number one reason? Huh? Yes. So the first reason was overeating. Okay. What was the second reason?
Inactivity.
Yeah, physical inactivity. All right. What was the third one? Huh? I don't hear you.
Genetic reasons.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we have genetics, hereditary, and minor cases, especially happening to women. What was the last one? Pregnancy. Wow, you guys are studying. That's good. 9 a.m. That's interesting. All right. So my biggest point at that time was the first one, overeating. Eating too much. Right? So what did I say? What did I say about this part?
Eating too much of what kind of food?
Yes. So here, of course, all the books and the literature, and it's okay. Most people will think that eating too much, right, is the biggest problem associated with obesity. But here, what did I say? Is not only the problem is not only about eating too much, but the problem is what? The kind of food that we eat. The type of food that we eat. So the eating part has to do more with, I would say, the type of food. Okay? It has to do more with the type of food that you eat. And this is why we mention some empty calorie food. What does it mean? You understand? We're talking about a problem here, non-communicable diseases, especially associated with the problem of obesity. All right? And then, I may say, okay, maybe you're eating too much. Other people, maybe they don't just eat too much. Maybe it's genetic, or maybe it's other problems, right? It may happen. But let's focus on the eating part. On the eating part here, this is when I want to talk about empty calorie food. I put a definition of empty calorie food on your PPT. So what is an empty calorie food? Anybody? Empty calorie food. What does it mean? not nutritious but high calorie. Yeah, we have calories, and the definition that she gave is okay. Basically, empty calorie food here means that we have energy. We get energy from that food, okay? But that food has little or no protein, vitamins, or minerals. Very important. It gives me energy, but remember, the first one was what? Adequacy, right? We want sufficient energy and we want adequate nutrient. But here, even though the food, these cookies give me energy, they may not have enough protein, mineral, or vitamins. Okay? So this is why there are certain food that we just like, okay, may not be beneficial for me. Which means that when I come back about the type of food here, all right, like I told you, I used to love cheesecake. I still love it, but I'm just being careful now. Okay? You may eat more portions of this food, but the energy level is probably very, very high, and they don't necessarily have enough vitamins, mineral, or protein in them. They're just delicious, but not nutritious. Okay? So the notion of empty calorie food is something that we must always understand when we plan our diet. Make sure that we control our energy, because this little food gives us energy, but not enough nutrients. Okay?
Question.
Yes?
Then what is zero calorie food? Because sometimes when I drink Coke or some drink, like some drinking, actually they say like 0 calorie. So sometimes does it make sense?
Yeah, I mean, calorie. We're talking about energy, and those things can also be verified in terms of what you have. In the description, you have to read the food label. Even though you see an ad, you still have to read the food label. For example, I think last time we talked about it, maybe next week when we talk about fibers. There's an argument about, these fibers, they're part of carbohydrates, they give us energy. And I thought, these one are not digestible, so they should not give energy. And then we go deeper and they say, oh no, but this type of fibers will give you 2 kilocalories. So to be honest with you, the argument is still out there in terms of, do I get energy from here or not here? And with the old marketing system, sometimes it's very complicated. And as you know, science keep progressing. So the jury is still out there, but I will always recommend to go with the food label to see what is inside, what you are putting in the body. Yeah. Good? Not good?
Yes.
Yeah.
And how about coffee? Coffee is there any calorie? Coffee?
At this time, I will not give you a straight answer to it in terms of the coffee, like the pure coffee per se. But in my opinion, at this time, I will think that you will have some energy on it. You will have energy on it. Saying that it has zero energy, I don't think so. But I can double check that for you and give you a better answer in terms of what you have on the coffee, right? So that I don't mislead you into what do we get from the coffee. I don't drink it, but I think a lot of people do, and I will give you, the right answer regarding energy in the coffee or not. Okay. Another question. Calorie control. No? All right. Okay, let's look at this one. This is one of my favorite picture, and as Alberto was asking, now we can talk more about this energy thing, right? So we have two breakfasts here. We have A and we have B. So the number one, we're talking about nutrient density. Nutrient density. So the simple definition of nutrient density is we want most nutrient but the fewest calorie. Okay? We want most nutrient but fewest calorie. So remember, in adequacy, we're talking about having all the nutrients, but at the same time, we don't want too much energy. Okay? So let's look at these two. So we have this one here, A, and then we have B. Which breakfast will you choose, A or B? A or B?
A.
Why will you choose A? So why will you choose A? Yes.
I need food. I'm not gonna be hungry after eating those things.
Because you have it in big quantity.
Yes.
All right. Another answer. Why will you choose? Why will you choose A? Yeah. Balance. Aha. But what is balance here?
Protein.
So okay, that's a good point, because when you mention the balance here, you're referring to the fact that B has too much of one food, basically. All right? Okay, good one. Another one, why do we choose A and not B? Okay, let's make things simple. I have A and I have B. A is 450 grams. Okay. And B, how much is it? 144 grams, right? So actually, A looks too much. So why will you choose A? Will you want to change? You still keeping A, even though the quantity is much bigger? All right, let's keep going. In terms of energy, how much energy do I get from A? 500 kilocalorie, right? How much do I get from B? 500. Same, right?
Yes.
So Alberto, do you want to change?
No.
You still keep it A?
Yes.
Even though they give you the same energy? But B, the quantity is much smaller, isn't it? So here again, nutrient density here means what? I want most nutrient, but not too much calorie. Okay? So here, nobody mentioned, okay, here we have some donuts, okay? And we have more complex breakfast here, fruits and vegetables, cereal, bananas, sausages, so bread and eggs. It looks like a lot of food, okay? But nobody is talking about empty calorie food here. Right? On the B, what do you think about B or with these donuts? What do you guys think? Yeah, probably here, right? Having like most of the sugar and things like that. Maybe not sufficient protein, vitamins, or minerals. But we'll check it out. Let's go back to the nutrient density. Okay? So here, even though A looks like too much food, when we calculate the density, what do? We want to know, remember when we calculate for the other nutrients, 1 gram of fat gives me how many kilocalories?
9 kilocalories.
Yes, same for carbohydrate 4, protein 4, right? So here, what are we doing? We take the energy, 500 kilocalorie, right? we want to know how much energy I get for 1 gram of food. Okay? So I divide this one by what?
450.
450 gram. And how much do I get?
1.1.
1.1 kilocalorie. Okay? When I do the same for B, how much do I get? 3.5 kilocalorie. So for 1 gram of food B, right, I'm having almost 3 times the energy that I'm getting from food A. And for us, when we talk about food, we talk about nutrient density. We want all the nutrients, but we don't want too much energy. You understand? So, if you look, for example, at your next slide, now you can probably better understand it. The green is food A, right? The green is food A, and the yellow is food B. All right? If you look in the middle, the nutrient density for this food, for the A, we have a lot of protein. How about the food B? Look at the protein level is actually very, very low. Okay? Let's talk about, when I talk about empty calorie food, what did I say? We have energy, but low protein and vitamins. Let's look at food B. Do we have any vitamin on food? Zero. When you talk about vitamin A. This is why I was mentioning that when you choose, you look at all the considerations. Say, okay, this is probably an empty calorie food. You know, it gives me energy, of course, right? Give me a lot of energy for 1 gram of food. But here, you know, I have almost no calcium, no mineral, and no vitamins here. Compared to food A, you can see that the level of vitamin C, A, pretty high. We have some fiber, we have some protein. Okay? Again, this is why I say that it's not. When you look at this one, it looks like a lot of food on food A, right? So somebody may say you are overeating, right? And then you look at on B, it looks like a smaller quantity. But that smaller quantity per gram gives you a lot of energy. And on top of that, you have almost no protein, vitamins, or minerals. So B cannot be a good choice when we plan our diet. Okay? So we have to look at all these considerations. So this is why, there are certain food we not, probably going to advise people to eat, especially in the hospital setting. So I'll come back again. Nutrient density. Understand? Any question? Nutrient density.
So,
yeah.
If you say nutrient density is high, it means it has more calorie, more energy.
All right. So you have good question. Just keep this one in mind. The key part is fewer calorie, so you don't want too much energy, because calorie is what? Energy. All right. This is a very good question that he's asking. Because if I give you a problem, all right, you need to know the energy per 1 gram of food. Okay? Is that energy per 1 gram of food, if it's too high, it is not necessarily what you want. All right? So you don't want a lot of energy for 1 gram of food in that case. So why this one is great? Why we choose A? Because the energy per 1 gram is much lower than the energy per 1 gram of food B. Number 2, to complete the definition, when you look at food A, what do you have? You have an array of nutrients. Okay? So when I say most nutrients, so you have almost all the nutrients. All right? We talk about the 6 classes of nutrients that you have there. Okay? And when you look at food B, let's go to the next picture here. You can see that on food B, there are some nutrients that are clearly missing. All right? So this is not what you want. Understand? Good question. Another question? Question? Good. Okay, let's look at number 5 then. Moderation. Remember, I will give you a problem, and then you have to see what can you offer as a solution on the problem. For example, I tell you, Professor Obiang, his height is this is his weight, so you need to know the body mass index, right? Once you know the body mass index, if for example I'm obese, what can happen here? And the doctor says he has to follow the 6 principles of diet planning. So you must know what are the 6 principles of diet planning. Okay? But anyways, we do all these things together slowly. Alright? So, now number 5 is moderation. Moderation should take you back moderation should take you back to food pyramid. In the food pyramid, which is a classification of food, on the bottom you have grains, and then what do you have here? Vegetables and fruit. As you go up, milk and milk products, and then you have
beans and meat.
Yeah, and on top,
Sugar.
So when I put on top here, fat, sugar, and salt, why do I put them on top? When you look at the pyramid, why do we put fat, oil, sugar, and salt? Why do we put them on the very top, at the tip of the pyramid?
High calorie.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. So basically, here, this is the food we must eat the least. Okay? This is the food we must eat the least in smaller quantity. So when I talk about moderation, is that when I select the food, this food, we must eat this food in smaller amount, low in fat and added sugar. Which means that if I go back to this old picture, you go to Daegu International Airport, I think what did they have there? Tim Hortons? I'm not quite sure. Once in a while, you can have these donuts, but not part of your food habit. So it can happen that we eat them, right? But what we don't want to eat them all the time, right? We want to eat them in smaller amount when we look at our diet. So moderation, once again, means what? Does not contain excess amount of fat, salt, or sugar. Okay? And when we look at the 6 principles of diet planning, all of them must come back together. And you have here, it contributes to adequacy, balance, and kilocalorie control. Like she just mentioned, they're going to give you like a lot of energy, and we don't want that, right? Okay? So balance here, we have to be careful when we do diet planning. Balance here is not same quantity here, right? Like I mentioned, in the moderation part, there are certain food we should not eat in excess. Okay? Question, moderation, question? No question? Okay, let's look at the last part, the last principle, variety. Let's look at variety. Variety is a big thing for me, especially in Korea, and I think this is the biggest problem that we are now facing in Korea when we talk about planning a diet, because of the way people eat actually in Korea these days. Okay. So you keep in mind the food pyramid, and you keep in mind my plate. The same thing, basically, if you want. Just like the pictorial illustration. So here, we must eat what? Grains, right?
Yeah.
We must also eat vegetables. We must also eat fruit. What else can we add here?
Protein.
Oh yeah, protein. Okay? So, you guys eat every day, right? Yeah. So here we are Monday, we have Tuesday, we have Wednesday, okay, we can add Thursday, alright? Do you remember what you ate on Monday? Do you remember?
When?
Monday. Do you remember what you ate on Monday?
Yes.
Did you eat some grains on Monday? What did you eat?
Bread.
Bread? Okay, let's just list what you ate on Monday, right? As a lunch. Let's just take for lunch. So during the lunch, is bread that you ate on lunch? Or was it rice? What did you eat?
Bread.
Bread. How about any vegetables on Monday? Did you eat any vegetables on Monday?
Yes.
Which one?
Broccoli.
Broccoli. How about the fruits? Did you eat any fruit?
Yes. Apple.
Apple. Very good. How about protein?
Korean barbecue.
Huh?
Korean barbecue.
Korean barbecue. So we're gonna put like some what, beef or pork?
Pork.
Pork. Alright. Variety is a very important thing to understand here. Okay? That was Monday. How about yesterday? Do you remember what you ate yesterday at lunchtime?
Lunchtime?
Yeah.
Chinese food.
Let's put it in terms of food groups.
So,
In terms of grains. Alright? So, okay, so you had some type of noodles here. Alright? How about vegetables?
Tamuji. I don't know how to say it. The
Pickled radish.
Huh?
Pickled radish.
Okay. Some type of radish, right? How about fruits?
apple.
You ate apple again? Okay. How about the protein that you had in your food? The big
Pork.
pork again. Okay, we are Wednesday, so you didn't have lunch yet. It's 9 a.m. Alright? Let's go further. Do you remember what you ate on Sunday? Just to have 3 examples. On Sunday, do you remember?
Rice.
Okay, so on Sunday, you ate some rice. Okay? How about the vegetables? Did you eat any vegetables?
Radish.
The same here? Okay. How about fruits?
Apple.
Apple again. Okay. How about the protein?
Tofu. Tofu.
Tofu. Oh, interesting. That's good. All right. Thank you very much for doing the exercise. When we look at it, right, variety means among the food group. This is one food group, the grains. All right? In this food group, you must choose different kinds of food. Okay? In this food group, you must choose different kind of food every single day. Every other day, you have to change. Okay? So, let's look at his diet for the last 3 days. All right? So, when it comes to grains, in terms of variety, this is actually very good. Why is it good? Because every single day he is changing the grains that he eats. All right?
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
But oftentimes, if you ask people, especially in Korea, what do you eat yesterday? Rice, kimchi. Rice, kimchi. Rice, kimchi. Right? So, with other things,
Yeah.
we're talking about grains and vegetables, and then the protein can change, right? Right? So, here, in terms of grains, this is perfect. Because we have a variety. Why do we need variety? In this case, for example, why do we need variety here?
Because they all have different nutrients.
Very good. So what Peter says is, here we have different nutrients. So each food has, certain nutrients that we may not find in another food. All right? And this is why variety is important. And remember what I mentioned when I talk about food security. If you eat every day, but it's the same thing that you're eating, it might not be the healthiest choice. Alright? Let's just keep that in mind. So, when it comes to vegetables, you start with broccoli, and then it changes to reddish and reddish. So here, we have a little problem. Okay? Because now, back to back, we're repeating the same. So, which are the vegetables we can put here for him?
Cabbages.
Huh?
Different kind of.
Different kind of vegetables. Any other choice?
Cabbages.
So you can ask him, okay, get some cabbages, or any other things, even all the leafy vegetables. All right? Okay, how about the fruit? Aha. We also give an X here. Why?
Same.
Yeah. So for 3 straight days, he was only eating apples, right? So what can we suggest to him if we have to change his diet? So what can we tell him? Hey, on Tuesday eat some what?
Banana.
Huh?
Banana.
Banana, right? So we put in some banana here, and on Wednesday, orange. Okay? Because banana and oranges, they will give you different kinds of nutrients. And of course, if you love apples so much, come back on Thursday with apples. It's not a problem. Okay? So, and when it comes to protein, good or not good here? So here we have also a little X, because back to back we have like some pork, all right? So what can we do? Okay, we leave him with the pork here, and maybe we say, okay, we go softer, some fish, and then we go even softer with tofu, which is great, all right? And yesterday we were talking about it. It's like you can decide to make your Wednesday menu because you choose tofu. Wednesday is actually a great menu for you. A meatless Wednesday. Right? Just like, okay, every Wednesday, no meat. Okay? And then you can come back with something softer, like, some fish, and then you go back to your pork slowly and slowly. Okay? So, variety. Do you guys understand variety?
Yes.
Everybody understand variety, right? And this is how you're going to plan your menu during the week, having to change and not eating the same thing every day. So for this first part of planning a healthy diet, we're going to stop here for today, and then the next class is when? Monday?
Yes.
Yeah, we have the second part where we really focus on the grains and some of the diseases that we have, and we'll close the chapter from there. Okay? All right, as usual, I'm going to stay here if you have some questions, and Alberto, I will check for the coffee for you, but generally speaking, I don't really know many elements that we have that has zero energy, but I'll double check it and give you the right answer. Okay? Any questions? Any other questions? No questions? Okay guys, have a nice day. I will stay here for those who have more questions. Okay? And I'll see you guys next week. Alright?
Thank you.